Okay, Anna, over to you.
All right, perfect. Well, I'm so happy to be here. I'm glad I got the chance to meet all of you and learn a little bit about you first. Like I said, my name is Anna, and I'm one of the environmental educators at VINS, or the Vermont Institute of Natural Science. And the whole thing that we do at VINS is we teach people about nature. We want people to learn more about the wildlife and the wild plants and the ecosystems around us so that they care more about those things, and hopefully they want to take action and do things in their life to help wild animals continue to survive. So we have a bunch of different types of education that we do. We do programs on site at the Nature Center. So if you come to visit us, you can learn things. And we've also started doing these virtual programs like many people have experienced in the last few months. Learning over the computer is a new thing that we get to do. And one of the main ways that I get to teach people is a tool that I use are live animals. So we actually have some animals that live here with us at VINS. And these animals live here with us because they can't live in the wild. Many of these animals were brought to us by people out in the world like yourselves who found them. Maybe they were injured on the side of the road, or maybe it was a little baby bird that they found and they knew that it was too young to be outside of the nest all on its own. And so those people like you brought them over to us. We have a bird hospital at VINS called the Center for Wild Bird Rehabilitation. And we see all different kinds, hundreds of birds every year that come to for care in our little bird hospital. In fact, this year, we're getting close to 1,000 birds that we've seen all year. It's pretty remarkable. For the most part, the birds that come to the hospital, they get released. They go back into the wild once they're healed from their injuries. But sometimes they can't do that. Sometimes that injury that they got means that they can't fly anymore, or they can't see very well anymore. And that is a really hard thing for a wild animal to deal with. They won't be able to survive as well in the wild as perhaps an uninjured bird could. But they still have a life, they still have a mission, and their mission becomes to help us educate, to help us teach you guys a little bit more about their wild cousins. So these birds that can't live in the wild become our teachers. And so these birds, we're going to meet two of them today and learn a little bit more about them and how they would survive in the wild using their natural adaptations. That's a word that I'm going to be using a lot. They're adaptations, which are things about them, things on the animal's body that they use to survive in the wild in their particular special way. So, unless we've got any questions to start, I'm gonna duck off screen briefly and get out our first ambassador animal. Does that sound good? Thumbs up. All right, I'll be right back.
And I just wanted to say welcome. I think Austin has just arrived. Austin, my name is Jane, and we're doing our VINS session. Just a quick update so you know, we're so happy that you're here and with us. This is being recorded, so if you don't want to be on the video, then you can keep your camera off. And we ask everyone to keep themselves muted until they have a question for us. If you have a question, just put your hands up, or you can send me a message. And I'll stop now because look who is here.
Yes. So this is the first bird that we're going to meet today. This is Heartland. Heartland is a barred owl. I'll spell that for you. B-A-R-R-E-D, barred owl. And she's named a barred owl because of these stripes that you see on her belly. People say they look like bars. I say they look like chocolate bars because they're that nice chocolatey brown color. So she is a barred owl, which is a kind of owl that lives in our woods, right around in the Upper Valley, in Vermont and New Hampshire. Even in Maine and Massachusetts and New York, you can see barred owls in the wild. In fact, they're probably the most common type of owl in our forest. And these owls have a number of different adaptations that help them survive in our forests. If you know already a little bit about owls, One thing that you might know about them is that they're nocturnal, meaning they are awake and active and doing stuff during the nighttime when we are asleep. So they kind of do the opposite thing to humans. She would much rather be awake and active, looking for food, flying to a perch, finding a place to nest in the springtime during the night. And so because she's active at night, she needs to survive in a different way than we do. We need to be able to move around in the daylight, but she moves around at night. So two of her special adaptations we're going to touch on right now are her senses, her eyesight and her hearing. If she looks a little bit at the camera, she's so fascinated by everything in this room. She actually hasn't spent all that much time in this room before, so everything deserves a vigorous staring at. But if she looks at the camera, you might be able to see her big brown eyes. She does have brown colored eyes, like I have brown colored eyes, but you might notice they're quite a bit larger than even my eyes are. Her eyes are so big because eyes work kind of like windows do. The bigger the window that you have in your room, the more light gets into the room. So the bigger the eyeball you have, the more light gets into the owl's eye and they can see well, even if there's not all that much light available. Let's say the moon is up and it's a big, bright, full moon. That's a lot of light for an owl to use. But let's say there's just a little crescent moon, just a sliver. That's not a lot of light for them to use. But because their eyes are so big, that's often enough for them to be able to move around in the forest, to fly between the trees, over the rocks and under the branches, and find food. That's why it's an adaptation, is because it helps them survive by helping them find food. We all need food to survive. This kind of owl, the barred owl, is what we might call a generalist. She's not very particular about the food that she eats. She has one major criteria, which is it has to be an animal. She doesn't eat plants. She is a carnivore. So she's not interested in eating a bowl of blueberries or a loaf of bread or a head of lettuce. No, she wants to eat a mouse or a bird or a snake or a fish. Those are the kinds of things that barred owls are interested in eating. And in fact, at this time of year, well, actually, truthfully, maybe in a few weeks, when there's actually some snow on the ground, she is going to be eating a lot of rodents like mice and voles, the things that tunnel around underneath the snow. But then we have a problem, because if her food is underneath a layer of snow, she can't see it, right? It's invisible. She doesn't have X-ray vision. So she needs to use another sense in order to find food in the winter, something that's not her eyesight. When we think about our five senses, we know we've got taste and smell and touch and sight and hearing. Think about how an owl might use these senses to find food. Do you think she goes around sniffing out the food or licking the ground, tasting for the food? That might be inefficient. Instead, what she actually uses is her hearing. She is able to hear the sounds of the mice and the voles scurrying around underneath the snow, which seems remarkable to us. We can hear pretty well. You can hear music, you can hear birds in the trees, you can hear somebody talking to you, but you might sometimes have trouble if the sound is really, really quiet. What you do when a sound is quiet is you might cup your hand behind your ear like this to make your ear a little bit bigger. Our barred owl here doesn't have this flap of skin on the side of her head that we do. This is our ear or our pinna, and we make it bigger by cupping our hand like this. Instead, what she has is already a very large space like this that's just made of feathers on her face. If you can see the dark line of feathers that go around her eyes and around her face like this, you will notice that those feathers form a kind of dish. Like somebody scooped a bunch of ice cream out of her face and left the dish behind. That dish is what helps her get the sound the same way that cupping your ear does. She's got a very large dish for gathering a lot of noises. And so those tiny little mouse footprint noises, they sound pretty loud to her. And not only do they sound loud, they sound exactly where the mouse is. So that all she needs to do is hear that sound, and she knows, I need to punch through the snow in that spot right there. And I'm going to be able to grab a mouse in my talons, which is of course how these owls grab onto their food. They use their feet or their talons to grip something, and they haul it back up into a tree, and then it's time to eat it. They swallow it whole. So if you've ever heard of an owl pellet, something that owls cough up after they eat, that pellet contains all the bones and the fur of the thing that she just swallowed whole. Because she doesn't need to eat bones and fur. Those are gross. They don't have any nutrition in them. So she just gets rid of it when she's done digesting all the meat that was on that mouse.
Charlie, did you have a question?
Yeah.
No? Okay.
All right. Well, that is a little bit about Heartland, our barred owl. I want to break for questions if anyone has questions about her right now. I think you're muted.
Go ahead, Vinny. What's your question?
I think that what do barred owls eat?
What do they eat? Yeah, they eat a variety of different things, from mice and voles and chipmunks to small birds to reptiles like snakes and lizards, amphibians like frogs and salamanders. They even eat fish and crayfish. A lot, right? A lot.
Thank you, Vinny. That was a great question. Levi, did you have a question? No? Okay. Savannah, did you? No? Okay. Does anybody, oh, Austin, what was your question?
So, does a owl can turn their head 360?
Not quite 360. You see what she's doing right now? She's looking behind her at the big screen that I've put up behind me. She can turn her head fully 180 degrees. That's half of 360, all the way back. And she can go a little bit farther than that even. Some people say owls can turn their heads 270 degrees, 3/4 of the way to 360. Personally, I've never seen an owl do that. I've been working with owls for about 10 years, and I've never seen that happen. But I have totally seen them turn their heads all the way 180 backwards many, many, many times. Yeah.
So they could turn their head all the way backwards one way and then all the way backwards the other way, which means
True.
they can see 360 degrees around them. Is that right?
Absolutely, yes.
Wow. Oh, Austin, that was a great question. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, I have another question.
Yeah.
How big is their wingspan?
Oh, that is a good question. How big is their wingspan? It's not as long as you would expect. They don't have like an eagle-sized wingspan, a bald eagle with a 6-foot wingspan. Her wingspan is about 4 feet, though. So that's
That's not that bad of a wingspan.
nothing to sneeze at. Yeah. All right.
Thank you, Austin.
Mm-hmm.
And I think maybe, Levi, did you have a question now? No? Okay.
I'm going to sneak her back in her little travel crate because we've got an activity to do if there aren't any more questions. So I'll be right
We're all
back.
set. Okay, guys, this is our little activity coming up just while she puts. Oh, can anyone remember the name of that owl? I've forgotten already. Hands up if you can remember the name of the owl.
A barred owl?
It was a barred owl.
Hartford.
Was it Hartford or Heartland?
It is Heartland. Yes.
There you go. We're close.
Like the town. Heartland.
Thank you. All right, what's our activity, Anna?
Yes, so now that we've spent some time learning about owl senses, I thought it would be great if we could use our own senses the way that an owl does, which is to find food, to find a mouse. So I've been led to believe that there is a mouse hidden somewhere in each of your houses, and it's up to you now to use your eyesight and your hearing perhaps to locate that little white mouse and bring it back here and show us. That is your
That's right.
challenge.
All right. So check with your parents. You might have a white mouse. You might have something else that you're pretending is your white mouse. And go hunting. Go see if you can find your mouse. Everybody should have one if they wanted one. If you didn't, now is just a really good time to maybe get up and get some jiggles out, do some stretches, see if you can touch your toes. Lily is looking for her mouse.
Oh yeah. Maybe some
Mice
owl
like to
stretches.
live. Yeah. Oh yeah, you could fly around the house with like your owl wings out. That would be cool. Oh, it looks like Levi found his banana, which he's pretending to be a mouse.
That's much better human food than a mouse. And
Charlie found his mouse.
excellent.
Wonderful.
Nice.
Charlie, how does your mouse taste?
We're not going to try that. Oh, Oscar found his cat, which he's pretending is his mouse. Wonderful job. Good
So
job.
my cat got my mouse.
Like
Cat
cats
is
do.
your predator. That's right.
Like cats do.
Lily is still looking for hers. She's having to use her eyes.
Mhm.
Savannah, did you find yours? You did? What were you pretending to be was a mouse?
I can see a cat.
She was there. And Lily found hers.
Oh, beautiful.
Oh.
Good job.
And Vinny's got his. Well done.
Perfect.
Good job,
I
guys.
was like to hide it. The
We
outside.
decided to play another game at our house. So Lily's going to hide the mouse and then I'm going to go and look for it at the end.
There you go. There you go.
Oh, I want to
Noah
hide
found it.
mine. Okay.
Nice job, Noah and Owen.
Well
No,
done.
did you find it?
Yep.
Good
Noah
job.
found it.
Noah found his. Well done, everyone. I think everyone who was playing along has found their mouse. Good job, hunters.
Did it, Mommy?
Excellent.
What
Excellent.
sense did you all use to help find your mouse? Did you use your touch
Found it.
or your nose?
I see it.
You used your eyesight, your eye sense? Great job. Well done.
Excellent.
All right.
So now that everyone has found their mouse, I thought it'd be fun to continue our break with a little song and dance, a little action time. So we have a song that we sing here at VINS about another kind of owl, the great horned owl. And this song goes to the tune of Row, Row, Row Your Boat. How many of you know that song? Row, row, row your boat. Excellent. All right, we're all on the same page. Excellent. So there are hand gestures to each phrase in the song. So I'll go through them slowly. You can practice along with me, and then we'll all do it together. Does that sound good? All right, so we're starting off as a great horned owl with we need our little horns, our little ear tufts like this. And we sing, great, great, great horned owl. That's the first verse. And then we're gonna put our wings out, flying through the night. And then we're gonna put our talons out when we say, swooping down and catching mice. And then we're gonna touch on something we'll learn with the next owl we're meeting. Put our fingers to our lips, we'll say, using silent flight. Everyone do that? So we got our great horned owl, flying through the night, swooping down and catching mice, using silent flight. All right, does everyone have that? Are we ready to do it together?
All right, let's unmute everybody. Let's see if we can all sing it together. It might be a little loud, so if you don't want to unmute, or if you want to step back from your computer so it's not too loud, or if you want to cover your ears, anything is fine, okay?
I'm ready.
All right, Anna, I think we are
All right.
ready.
Everyone ready?
Ready?
Great, great, great horned owl flying through the night, swooping down and catching mice using silent flight. Nice job, everyone.
I already done.
I'd like to do it one more time,
Let's do
can
it one
we?
more time. Absolutely.
Okay, are you ready?
Owl.
You ready? Great.
Great, great, great horned owl flying through the night, swooping down and catching mice using silent flight.
Yay!
Yay!
Good job, everyone.
We're so coordinated.
Nice. All right, I'm going to go ahead and mute everyone again, and then we'll move on to our next bit.
Indeed, we're going to meet the second owl and the last owl that we're meeting today. So once again, I'm going to duck off screen briefly, and I'll be right back. All right. Whew. We've got a little guy here to meet us.
It's a little bit.
The other owl that we met was a barred owl, probably the most common owl, as I mentioned. This guy, his name is Miami, and he is an eastern screech owl. Now I know he's got those little ear tufts, those little feathers on the top of his head that look like the horns that we just had up for the great horned owl. Sometimes people ask us if our eastern screech owl is a baby great horned owl because he's so small and he has those little tufts, but he is his own species, his own type of owl. Eastern screech owls just are this small. Miami here is 3 years old. And he is fully grown. He is not going to get any bigger than this. He's exactly how big he needs to be. So with our eastern screech owl, I mentioned we were going to talk about that last phrase in our song, that using silent flight. You might have heard that owls are capable of flying silently through the night. And while it's not 100% silent, no noise whatsoever, it's pretty close. And how they do this is with their feathers. So you might see on Miami how beautiful the patterns on his feathers are. He's super, super well camouflaged. He can hide well against the bark of a tree or sitting on top of a tree branch, sticking those ear tufts up in the air. He might just look like a little rough piece of bark or a broken off piece of branch. And that's what he's counting on, so that larger animals, things that might want to eat him, they don't spot him and catch him. And some of those larger animals that might want to eat him are other owls, believe it or not. So we don't let Heartland and Miami hang out together because they would not get along. But the actual structure of the feathers, what the feathers are made out of and how they're put together, is what gives them their silent flight ability. Right along the leading edge of an owl's wing, so the part of the wing that flies into the wind like this, there's a lot of kind of little fuzziness, little serrations we call them. I think looking at an owl's wing, it looks like they're growing eyelashes off the front of the wing, just tiny little hairs growing right off the front of those feathers. And the function of those little hairs is to help break up the wind as it passes through the wing. So instead of having the wing have to snap the air out of the way really fast like a jet engine, an owl's wing just sort of pushes the air out of the way. we can sort of demonstrate this, if you guys are up for it, with our own ears and our hand pretending to be a wing. So if you hold your hand up like this with all of your fingers tight and closed together, and then wave it really fast right next to your ear, really fast like this, and listen to the sounds the air is making. All right, get a good idea of that. And now we're going to have our hand be an owl wing. So open all of your fingers like this and do the same thing. Wave it right next to your ear and listen to the sound. Was there a big difference in how loud the sound was? Yeah, I think there was, right? Huge difference. Their open hand, your owl wing, all that air that your other hand was pushing out of the way noisily just got to go right through quietly. So that's how the silent flight works. And this allows them to sneak up on their prey. So once they've seen it or heard it, they just swoop down on those silent wings and grab that little mouse, and the mouse has no idea what just happened. Very, very efficient. Now, Miami here is a really special little guy at VINS. We love telling people about his story, how he came to live here, because it's a story that will help other screech owls in the future. If more people know about him, the more then other screech owls will survive. So Miami was born, like many eastern screech owls, in a tree cavity, inside of a hole in a dead tree. That's a lot of birds, and many other animals, in fact, like to nest inside of holes in trees. You can picture it, I'm sure. But his tree that he was living in was a dead tree. Most trees that have big holes inside of them are dead. They've started to rot out in the middle. A woodpecker has maybe come along and excavated that hole, banging on it with its beak. And so this screech owl family was living inside of this wonderfully homey little dead tree. And the person on whose property the tree was standing decided that they needed to cut down the tree. And so they cut down this dead tree, but Miami was inside at the time. And when the tree came down, he bumped his head really hard and it damaged his eye. So he actually can't see out of his eye anymore. The people who cut down the tree were rushed him to a wildlife hospital just like ours, and they were not able to save the eye, but they did save his life. So now Miami helps us tell the story of cavity nesting birds, birds that use homes like the one that he was living in, and help us think about better ways to go about preserving these homes. If you see a dead tree standing in the middle of the woods, you might recognize that as a great habitat for owls and leave that tree standing. If that tree is near your house, sometimes this happens. You've got a dead tree near your house, near your car, and if it falls, it's gonna hurt a lot more than one little owl. So you need to take that tree down. But there's a good time of year to do it. Owls nest in late winter and early spring. So this time of year, late fall, early winter, owls are not nesting. They're not using that tree. So you could cut down a tree in the fall or the winter and not disturb the owls at all. That's a good solution to keep everybody safe. And if you want to go the extra mile, if you're worried that you've now taken away this habitat that an owl could use, you can put something up in its place. You can build a nest box for owls. It's just like a tree cavity, but you've built it yourself. And there are great plans online that you can find to build your own screech owl nest box. Put it up on the side of your garage or a living healthy tree, and those owls, when they come back in the spring going, wait, where's my tree? We'll go, oh, there's a brand new house. I'll just live in there. And hopefully they continue to produce babies in that nest, babies that will go around and eat all the little mice that are around your house so that they don't get into your house and eat your food. That would be gross. All right, so that's a little bit about our eastern screech owl. Again, his name is Miami. He's from Miami, Florida originally. And he made it up here back in 2017. He's been here with us a while.
Lily has a question.
Questions? Yes, please.
What eye did he bump?
Oh, good question. It is his right eye. So the one
There you go.
that's sort of closest to me here. You can see when I move my finger around, it takes him a minute to sort of identify. Oop, he saw me coming from behind there. He's got a pretty wide range of vision, but it's only from the left side. Yeah, other questions?
Thank you. Does anybody else have any questions? Austin, what is your question, hon?
It's actually a comment. I have to say, I feel bad for Miami. Really bad. Like, he lost his habitat and his home and everything that he loves and cares about. I feel bad for him.
That's great feelings to express. I feel that too. One of the main things that keeps me working at VINS is the opportunity to make sure that Miami's life now is pretty good. And we try and give him as much space and choice to participate in things like this as possible. I went in to his aviary where he lives this morning, and I showed him my glove, and he knows from past experience that if he hops onto the glove, he's going to get a piece of food, and then he's going to go on a program and meet people. And if he doesn't hop onto the glove, he doesn't have to go on the program. So this morning I asked him, hey, Miami, do you want to go? And he said yes. So that's why he's here today.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And Austin, I think that's a really good feeling too. We were talking about that at our house. And so I'm really glad that you said that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Charlie, did you have a question?
How many eggs do they lay?
Ooh, very good question. How many eggs do they lay? They can lay as many as 7 or 8 eggs at a time. Can you imagine raising 7 children at once? Oh my goodness. That's what they do. Yeah.
Awesome. I cannot imagine having 7 children all in one go. They
Oh
must
boy.
be very tired mamas.
Yes. They're very
Do you have a
dedicated.
question as well? No? Anybody else have any questions? Awesome.
Well,
Okay.
thank you, everyone. This has been wonderful. You guys asked many great questions. I hope you enjoyed searching for your mouse using your eyesight and your hearing, mostly your eyesight. We're very visual creatures, us humans, and learning a new song. And I have a special mission for you, which is if you learned anything new, maybe it's that song, maybe it's the fact that screech owls live in holes, teach somebody else about it. And that way you'll be helping us with our mission to educate people about wildlife. Now you'll be a wildlife educator too. So thank you guys so much.
It's like we're all wildcat kids. We're
I
VINS
know.
kids. That's awesome. Great. Can we all say a big thank you to Anna and to both of the owls? And let's all unmute and say a big thank you.
Thank you, Anna.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank
I'm
you.
so glad. Thanks for having me.
Great.
Thank you. Thank you.